number of senior officers are on record as having said that, or having favoured certain suspects as being Jack the Ripper. Most famously, there is Sir Robert Anderson and Donald Sutherland Swanson.
In 1910, Sir Robert Anderson, as he had then become, wrote his memoirs entitled The Lighter Side of My Official Life, and in those memoirs he states the following.
Undiscovered murders are rare in London, and the Jack the Ripper crimes do not fall into this category. I am almost tempted to disclose the identity of the murderer, but no public benefit would result from such a course. In saying that he was a Polish Jew, I am merely stating a definitely ascertained fact. I will merely add that the only person who ever had a good view of the murderer unhesitatingly identified the suspect the instant he was confronted with him, but he refused to testify.
So, not only does Anderson say that the police caught Jack the Ripper, he also claims that there was a witness who had seen the face of the murderer. But who was that witness? Well, it can only have been one of two people, either Israel Schwartz, who saw the man attack Elizabeth Stride, or Joseph Luenda, who saw Catherine Eddowes talking with the man outside Mitre Square.
I would personally say that it was Israel Schwartz, because Anderson also said that this man was the only person to have got a good view of the murderer. And Lavender only had a passing, took a passing look at the man that he saw, and really didn't pay very much attention at all, and consistently said afterwards that he would not be in a position to identify the man if confronted with him.
Sir Robert Anderson presented a copy of his memoirs to his old colleague and fellow Ripper investigator, Donald Sutherland Swanson. In the 1980s, Swanson's grandson gave that copy to the Daily Telegraph. Penciled notes that Swanson had scribbled into the margin of the book certainly made for interesting reading and brought modern-day Ripper investigators considerably closer to identifying Anderson's suspect.
And he says the suspect was called Kosminski. Doesn't give us a Christian name, but insofar as research thus far has been able to reveal, there is only one Kosminski that could fit the bill, because we're told that this Kosminski was committed to an asylum, and the only Kosminski found in the asylum records, which was found by Martin Fido, is a man called Aaron Kosminski.
Swanson also says that the reason the witness would not give evidence was because the suspect was also a Jew, and the witness's evidence would be the means of the murderer being hanged, which he did not want on his mind.
If we believe the marginalia, then there was some reason why the police suspected him. He was taken with difficulty to a place called the Seaside Home to be identified, and that was probably the Convalescent Police Seaside Home in Brighton, where he was positively identified. The police then, for reasons which baffle everybody, released him. Now the probability is that they didn't have grounds for holding on to him any longer. The Habeas Corpus Act means that you have to bring charges within a given period of time, or you have to release the individual. If they were not prepared to bring charges because our witness apparently refused to testify or to give evidence, the police would have had to have released him. He then was returned to his brother's house in the heart of Whitechapel, and his family almost immediately appear to have had him committed into the asylum.
In early 1891, Aaron Kosminski was officially found to be of unsound mind, and on the 7th of February he was committed to the County Lunatic Asylum at Colney Hatch in North London. And so we find ourselves today in the position of probably knowing more about the major suspect than the majority of the detectives at the time knew. Yet that final piece of the jigsaw eludes us. If we could only uncover the evidence on which Anderson and Swanson based their suspicions, it might be possible for us to complete the puzzle and solve the mystery of Jack the Ripper once and for all. Unfortunately, many of the papers relating to the Jack the Ripper investigation have either been destroyed or else have disappeared from the official files, and without them it is impossible to establish the guilt of one particular suspect above all others.
I haven't the remotest idea who Jack the Ripper was. I would put Kosminski at the top of the totem pole, as it were, simply because Anderson and Swanson were the two most senior officers investigating the Ripper case, and it's reasonable to assume that they would have known the evidence against every major suspect. And if they thought that Kosminski, the evidence against Kosminski was better than the evidence against any of the others, Kosminski would be the probable leading contender for the mantle of being Jack the Ripper.
One thing, however, is certain. The legend of Jack the Ripper refuses to die, and interest in him increases with every year that passes. And with so many dedicated researchers still on his trail, the day may yet come when Jack the Ripper is finally brought to book.